Oh, speaker! So here's mud in your eye. Now, what a strange expression that is. I'm sure some of you have heard of it, and maybe you've even used it before as a toast. Yeah? Do you know where it comes from? No? There's some that say maybe it derives from a blessing on soil from farmers for a good harvest. Here's mud in your eye. Maybe it's to do with horses and getting mud flicked up to your eye as you gallop along. But then there are also people who suggest that actually it came from the trenches in World War I. And there's a kind of darker, more ironic feel to it. Here's mud in your eye. But then when I was doing my research, there was also this. And it's from the New Testament, John 9. As he went along, he saw a man blind from birth. His disciples asked him, "Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind?" "Neither this man nor his parents sinned," said Jesus. "But this happened so that the works of God might be displayed in him. As long as it is day, we must do the works of him who sent me. Night is coming when no one can work. Well, I am in the world, I am the light of the world." And after saying this, he spit on the ground, mixed mud with the saliva and put it on the man's eyes. "Go," he told him, "wash it in the pool of Siloam." So the man went and washed and came back seeing. Now, that resonates not just because of the mud in the eye, but also Jesus' disciples go, "Who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind?" I'm a Buddhist, and of course in forms of Buddhism there is some belief in reincarnation. There is also this concept of karma. And I am simplifying, but there are some Buddhists in Tibet who believe that children who are born blind, or people who become visually impaired, were murderers in a previous life. And they are treated with contempt, seen as evil, thrown out of their society. I am registered blind. You might not have been aware of that. I know I pass. I am often congratulated on looking so normal. Please don't do that. And I'm not completely blind. I think it's only 1 in 4 of the whole blind community that are actually black blind. Behind me on the screen, I'll audio describe. It's just what I have. I've got something called retinitis pigmentosa, which affects my rods and cones in my eye, causes tunnel vision, and I have problems with light sensitivity and light, and my colour vision is going. I also have chronic macular edema, which is exactly what it says. It's a bit uncomfortable sometimes. And because of all those things, I have hyperacusis, which means I'm very sound sensitive. On the screen behind me, there's one picture of a mountain view. Nice, fresh mountain view with a blue sky. Next to it is a picture of tunnel vision, a kind of mock-up of what tunnel vision would look like, and it's surrounded by black. Now, I don't see black. I see white. So I put together another photograph some time ago using cling film and Vaseline to kind of mock up how I see. It's very rough and ready, but it gives you an idea. So when I wouldn't have chosen blindness. You know, when I was 18, when I was diagnosed, I was a terrible romantic. And I would really rather have gone with the kind of tragic, languid, consumptive heroine. Or maybe, some really good, but, carefully placed scars from rescuing someone from a burning building. Yeah. But blindness, gross. It's so unsexy. And what about the future? Why did I think like this? And why do most of us have this reaction? And why on earth am I talking about disability when the general theme tonight is crafting the future? The reason is that over the last 30 years of progressive sight loss, myself and others have discovered something that might be key to future-proofing our society, and it involves disabled people, it involves you. So why are we scared by disability when it's the one thing that links us all? There is no community, no tribe, no culture, no educational setting, no workplace. There is no sports club, there is no community that does not have disabled people within it. They are here in this room tonight. So think about that. It's the thing that links the BME community, the LGBTQ plus community, the Brexiteers and the Remainers, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Disability, visible, invisible, and undeclared, is the one key thing. So it should be the one key thing that we don't fear anymore, right? And I'm not saying it isn't horrible and difficult to be losing one's sight or to be suffering from chronic pain or PTSD or juggling a learning difficulty or cancer or HIV. That is not the issue here. My point is that all bodies, all minds make us human. Future-proofing requires all our bodies, all our minds together. So now, just imagine that you are not revolted, fearful, or anxious about disability. But embrace it. You've always embraced it as part of the human condition. And immediately now, you are awake to this and look around your environment, and you realize that this isn't going to work for anyone who's ill, or has a mobility issue, or is older, or maybe has autism. And that excludes a third of our community, which is economically bonkers. If people can't access shops and buildings, then they won't spend their money. And if we're excluding a third of our communities at all time, just through rubbish design, how on earth are we going to be expected to cope with the bigger issues of climate change, of levelling up, and of all the things that we need to do to future-proof our communities? Listen to this phrase. I'm sorry, this building is inaccessible to disabled people. Now, take that disabled people and put in people of colour or woman. Right? In this, 2022, we'd be appalled, you'd be shouting for change. But wait a second, disabled people are also people with colour, are also women. So what's going on? And if there isn't any supportive financial system and no real social care, we lose all that wisdom, that wealth, that energy, that adaptability and resourcefulness of the disabled community and their families who are also stuck in. They're all stuck inside caring for each other. And to that, we add exhaustion, mental health issues, and further illness to people who might otherwise be a vibrant part of our community. Because remember, even if people cannot work, they can still bring an amazing amount of resource with them. And that means you. Maybe not right now, but at some point, because what's blatantly apparent is that we will all be disabled at some time in our lives. Now, it may be physical. You might have a sports injury. You might go through a period of depression. You might suffer trauma. Oh my goodness, the menopause, people. Long COVID. And, God willing, if we get older, there's that smorgasbord of an aging body. And this is the thing, we can equally be disabled by poverty, by not being able to communicate in the same language, by living in a remote situation, a remote location. Have you ever tried to get on a bus with a buggy and toddlers under 5? It's so difficult. At some time in our life, we are all going to need the help of random strangers. So why is it that we're so anxious about meeting somebody in a wheelchair or with a guide dog or with a learning difficulty or speaking to somebody who we know has cancer? Why does it scare us? Well, have a feel in your guts. And it's okay, because it's not your fault. There is almost no representation of people like me. You don't turn on the news and expect to see a deaf anchor on the news. And you don't go to university and expect to have a lecturer who is blind. And you don't go to work and expect your boss to have cerebral palsy. We, disabled people, are barely on television, barely in film, and often just really bad stereotypes in literature. But remember, being disabled is not a sin. And it's not a curse, and it's not juju. It's just being human. But for years, this kind of ridiculous defamation and scapegoating of disability has been not just accepted and expected, but encouraged. Through austerity, 1 in 5 disabled people ended up in food poverty. I was one of them. And then came COVID. Disabled people were seen, to use Ian Duncan Smith's famous phrase, as economically unviable and therefore expendable. There is a dark wave of eugenic thought that pervades government and therefore has impacted on society. Herd immunity, survival of the fittest. But if we recognize that disability is human, then this slow erosion of our rights and support is a very, very dangerous road. In this last week, I and my colleagues from Bar University, from Corsham Town Council, and several other local community partners, we've been running a mini festival of inclusion, disability, and community action. So we've been out and about asking people what it means to include everybody. I mean, is it even possible? And what ideas do they have that we could then take forward for future action and for research? And as part of that, I would like to ask you to explore the truth of what a truly enabled and inclusive community is, to raise a toast to cure our current blindness towards that wonderful resource of our disabled community, and to not obscure the fact that it's all about all of us, to refocus, to realign our spirit with the idea that all bodies and all minds make us human, and only together are we ever going to find a pathway through what is going to be a really tough and rocky future road. Including us all is the only way to future-proof your world as well as mine. So, raise your glass. Here's mud in your eye. Thank you.